This doesn't look good at all. This just looks like I'm wearing a bed sheet, like a sleeper shirt or something. Am I crazy? Is this just? I feel like a slob. Yeah. Oh, get up, get down with the sickness. Get up, get down with the sickness. Get up, get down with the sickness. Madness is the gift that has been given to me. This is part 2 of a series of nutritional videos I'm going to be doing, essentially just trying to simplify weight loss plans and basic nutrition concepts for people, especially right now when you may be working from home more and activity is going down and down and down, but I'm worried diets are not. One thing that was brought up from the last video was, what if you're working out at the end of the day? The quick answer is just try not to. Try to get your workouts done earlier in the day if you can. And I understand that you might not be able to, and so I'm going to give you something a little bit later in the video. But the quickest, easiest answer: move your workouts to the beginning of your day when you're having your carbs. Otherwise, we're going to do a little bit of something else. That's coming later. The next is, what kind of workouts should I be doing? First and foremost, stop running. If you're running for leisure or because you enjoy it, that's one thing. But if you're running to lose weight or for exercise, running is a terrible, terrible way to do that. Simply put, if you're not training your aerobic and anaerobic thresholds, you're not going to be able to maintain a decent enough pace for adequate calorie burn. So resistance exercise, whether that's training with weights, training with resistance bands, calisthenics, resistance with your own body weight, push-ups and pull-ups and things of that nature. Those are all going to be ideal because that is going to build your muscle. Running, if you enjoy running, continue to do it. But if you're talking about weight loss, that's just not going to be a good way to go. Micronutrients are going to be a big thing we talk about today, but the quickest thing is absolutely make sure you're drinking water. Stay hydrated and make sure your electrolytes are staying in balance as well. Those are the two big things, especially in summertime when it's getting this hot. Those are the two big micronutrients, but we're going to get further into that as well. If you have to work out in the evenings, we're going to talk about your BMR and the numbers you should have already looked up that we talked about in the previous video. So a very, very simple breakdown. If you are doing resistance training, you need to be breaking your macronutrients down: 40% protein, 30% carb, 30% fat. That is basically going to be where we want to live for a little while. So whatever that number you got from the BMR, 40% of that is going to be your proteins, 30% is going to be fats, and 30% is going to be carbs. I use MyFitnessPal to track those macros. If you have some app or some way of doing it, whatever works, but simply put, that is going to be the ratio I would suggest. And the reason we want to avoid working out in the evening is because if you're on the macronutrient schedule that I've been recommending, by the end of the day, you should really have burned through all your carbs at that point, which means you're not going to have adequate fuel for exercise. You may be able to do it for a few days, for a few weeks maybe, but at some point, those glycogen levels are going to drop too low and you're just going to be kind of burning yourself out. So if that is what you're doing, what I would, if there's really no other way, you can move your workout to earlier in the day when we have those carbs. take 5% of your carbs from your macros and just move them to about 30 minutes before your workout. If you are moving 5% of those carbs, I would really recommend either a Gatorade powder or a dextrose supplement powder. Dextrose is a very fast burning carb, and I was thinking of suggesting this as a good alternative, but I had to drive all over town today to get this. So it may be a lot simpler to go to your local nutrition store and just get a container of dextrose. But dextrose is a very fast burning sugar. It's very easy for your body to metabolize dextrose. And so if you are taking in dextrose specifically, there's a much better chance that you're not going to continue to be in a carbohydrate surplus at the end of your workout. I already commented on running. It's just not a great exercise plan for weight loss. We want to build those bigger muscles. The bigger the muscle gets, the more places we can put that glycogen before your body has to start putting it into fat storage. So, bigger muscles will facilitate staying leaner for longer. Even if you have a cheat day, you're not going to immediately find yourself blowing back up. Your body is going to be able to store that as glycogen in your muscle mass. So weight training, resistance training, body weight calisthenics, that sort of thing is going to be ideal. And again, if you enjoy running, then continue to do it. If that's a major stress reliever for you, that's great. But don't treat it as your exercise program. Running is a terrible exercise, especially if you're overweight trying to lose. Your joints are not going to be able to handle the amount of running you would need to do to facilitate that. Whereas weight training, if you're doing it correctly, make sure you're doing it correctly, you're not going to be working your joints, you're not going to be damaging your joints, you're going to be working your muscle and growing that muscle. As far as the cleanliness of nutrition, this has been another big thing, and this is probably going to just be what we talk about for the rest of the video. I recommend starting with a if it fits your macros kind of mentality. If you try to jump into a Whole30 or a paleo style diet right away, in my experience, people not only underestimate how financially expensive it is to eat clean, but the amount of time is also incredibly expensive. Your food is much more perishable, so you need to make more trips to the grocery store, and it's going to take longer to prepare those meals. And so in addition to how much money it costs a greater deal of time. And if you're not used to that sudden shift, maybe you'll get 7 to 10 days out of it, and you are going to be not burn out on what you're eating, but so frustrated by the process, you're going to give it up. It's not sustainable if you just jump right into it. So if it fits your macros is essentially eat whatever you want. When I go to the grocery store, I don't shop based on what items I need to fit into my meal plan. I know I need carbs, I need proteins, and I need fats. And I buy the ones I know I will eat, and then I fit them into my schedule. Then we can start making simpler, better choices. Instead of changing every single thing on the plate, we can change one thing on the plate, and then we can change another thing on the plate. It can happen gradually. You can actually experiment with it, with things and discover what you actually like that may be a much healthier alternative. So that way we're just easing into it and working out the nutrition as we go in a sustainable manner. In relation to macronutrients, you also must pay attention to your micronutrients. The most important micronutrient being water. If you get dehydrated, that can throw off so many of your body's systems, particularly getting rid of waste and reducing your fat mass. None of those systems are going to operate effectively. And I have the an attempt at a suggestion, I guess you'd call it, for people who just don't like the taste of water. There are essentially two things that are completely mandatory to sustaining life. The first and foremost is oxygen. The second is water. So suck it up and drink water. Is Mio okay? Mio is admissible, but don't get reliant on it. Reality will not allow you to add one thing to another and it simply have no effect other than taste. You're putting chemicals in your water. And I get it. That's, if it's a little trick to get yourself to drink water, sure. But now you're not drinking water. You're drinking water with Mio. And your body is going to have to filter that out. And we're trying to feed your body, not give it extra work. Just please drink water. And then step number 2 is going to be paying attention to your electrolytes. Gatorade is also going to be really good for that, but I think a lot of those dextrose powders are also going to have a pretty good mixture of some of those electrolytes. Salt and potassium. If you're cramping up, get salt. If your muscles are going into just complete collapse, get your potassium. Make sure you don't let those get out of whack. I hate that feeling, and I'm terrible about paying attention to my electrolytes. I took my Gatorade out of my macros because adjusting my carbs, I just kind of didn't leave room for it. And then by the end of the week, I was just completely miserable because my electrolytes were just not getting supplemented because I took out the Gatorade. So those little things, those micronutrients, can be very, very easy to miss when we're talking about an if it fits your macros kind of plan. So I also take a men's multivitamin. I take an electrolyte supplement. If I'm not having a Gatorade, I put it in my pre-workout. And really those are the big ones. Aside from that, you get into specific vitamins, amino acids, all of that kind of stuff. That's going to vary on the individual and what you're doing. So at that point, I would kind of guide you to your family doctor or something like that. But when we're talking about baseline nutrition, meeting that bare minimum bar for what we're trying to do for a healthy lifestyle, as you're hitting those macronutrients, you can't ignore those micronutrients. The biggest ones being water and your electrolytes. Past that, it just varies. So I hope that information was valuable to you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about exercise in the next video, start kind of paying a little bit more attention to that and making some suggestions for that. I'm also going to give you some multipliers for your BMR kind of based on your activity. So if you have not figured up your BMR, that's something you really need to do. We need to be at least hitting that number. Get used to hitting that number. That is a bare minimum. Instagram, Facebook, email, cell phone, Too Big Fitness. So many ways you can get a hold of me. I am still not putting a comment section in these videos. I don't need the confusion, but if there is a question or a topic you want to challenge me on, please contact me and please let me know so I can be putting out the best information possible. And until then, stay active, stay healthy, and stay safe. I'll see you next time.